We have the dog free to socialize and make decisions, and we want to start pushing the interactions, but we make sure we give the dog the ability to give us consent. So what does that look like? One, if the dog is just approaching you and sniffing you and stuff, just leave him be. Let him sniff you, let him hang out, obviously. If you want to interact with the dog, you're basically going to quote unquote ask permission to do it. And what that looks like is, I did this exact thing with that Great Dane. Once a dog sniffed me and went away, I loosely just said, Lucy, come here, and just kind of called her over casually, where I wasn't giving like a formal come command. I wasn't trying to bribe her over with a treat or anything like that. I truly said, hey, I want to interact with you right now. Do you want to come over here and interact, in dog language, if you will? And she kind of just looked at me and she's like, nah, not really. And I said, okay, fine. And I ignored her again after that. That's how you gauge how comfortable the dog actually is and if the dog actually wants the interaction or not in that moment. And if you could follow those rules, a lot of people, I tell them these rules and they're like, oh, well, what if a person does this? Or what if a person does that? If you're going to have people coming over your house that are not going to respect the rules that you're ultimately setting with your dog, or the rules that you're ultimately setting with them of how they could interact with your dog, one of two things needs to happen. One, that's not a person you're going to have come over the house, which I understand is not a realistic thing. Like, there's going to be people that come over the house that are not going to be as diligent about stuff. They're just going to be too enticed by the dog that's coming over to them or whatever it may be. Then you need to put your dog away at that point. And you need to make sure we're stacking positive associations, where even if you have 5 people come over per week and only 2 of those people you could trust enough to follow those rules, and you only have them out when those 2 people come over, and the other 3, you have the dog comfortable in another room, just chillaxing, minding its own business and stuff like that, your dog will progress socially over time, because less is more, as long as the less is always done in a positive way. So that's how I start to push that threshold.